Kia ora and hello friends. Welcome to the Restoring Connections podcast. I am Matthew Dawson. I'm sitting next to my gorgeous wife, Cora. Cora. Aurore is her French name. Barely anybody can say that, and so we call her Cora. And so today we are diving into communication. This is the first episode of a 4-episode series, making me feel very official talking about having a series. When it comes to restoring connections, we're always centering around 4 key things: personal responsibility, proactive care, powerful communication, and healthy boundaries. And so today, or in this series of episodes, we're going to be particularly diving into the whole area of powerful communication. And
which is going to make Matt look good and me look terrible.
What? No way.
This is Matthew's strength, obviously.
Right, sure. Okay. I'd like to think so.
It is your strength.
But that means that when I completely blow it in the area of communication, it's particularly bad. Which
true.
May or may... What's today? Monday? May or may not have happened in the hot tub on Friday. So when you really blow it with communication, it's kind of like, well, English is your second language, and personality-wise, it's not your main thing. But when I do, it's pretty bad. But that's all a part of life. So, gosh, you made me lose my train of thought. That's all right. So so we're talking about, that's right. So we're calling this series, How Can I Dismantle an Atomic Bomb-versation? I had to slow down and make sure I got that. It's a bit of a tongue twister. How do I dismantle an atomic bomb-versation? Because I think all of us know what it feels like to be in a conversation that is going terribly. And if it's going terribly, that's probably an indicator that this person is important to you, right? Because if the conversation got really gnarly and it's with, somebody random at a petrol station, then it doesn't really matter. But if the conversation is a huge bummer, it's probably because it's with somebody who's actually important to you, whose life impacts your life. The quality of connection with that person means something to you. And it's a terrible feeling, absolutely awful, when the wheels are coming off and we are damaging the trust in this relationship. Yeah. Like you are watching trust fall, like watching money get sucked into a toilet. You're just watching and you don't know what to do, right? Because you feel like what really needs to happen is the other person needs to stop communicating like that. And you're probably right. They probably do need to stop communicating like that. The only problem is that's the only thing you can't do anything about, right? And so we are diving into how can I, because it takes 2 to tango.
Yep.
Amen.
It does.
I
don't personally know how to tango.
Neither
I've
do I.
only ever seen it with 2 people.
That's right. From what we can see, it looks like the tango is better when it involves 2 people. We should learn how to tango. That would be awesome.
Sounds like a terrible idea.
I know. So because of that, if it takes 2 to make an atomic bomb of a conversation, then it should only take 1 to be able to dismantle it and at least exit the building or have ways of responding to disrespect with respect. So that's really what we're talking about. I want you to picture the action movie and the bomb is about to go off and you've got the guy with the radio on and Tom Cruise is in there somewhere and it's like, do I cut the yellow one or the blue one? And this is, I'm hoping that these podcast episodes help you to know which one do I cut, the red one or the blue one. This is the instruction that I'm hoping will help
Hopefully
you.
You don't have as many sweaty palm feelings as if it was a real bomb. But,
True. Though sometimes it totally feels like that. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we've got 4 different episodes. The first one we're going to be diving into is fears and judgments pretending to be intelligent, right? So we've identified a whole bunch of terrible language tools, right? A whole bunch of things that are quite common in our culture that we say that never produce anything good. even though, and I bet you'll be able to identify a bunch of these things like, oh yeah, I've said that. And I'm pretty much willing to bet that saying that has never produced anything good.
Yep.
Particularly, we're talking about particularly when a relationship is under strain, right? So there's a lot of these things you can get away with, you know, in a bantery sort of a way, or even if the connection
Really
is
good connection, maybe.
Yeah.
Even then.
That's right. But, you know, I often say to people like, yeah, but I know it's not particularly healthy, like with a really, really close. And I say, Cora and I would never say that to each other.
Yeah.
Or, you know, because,
Stray away from it.
and this is our lives. Like this is our whole life's work is around this stuff. And even we, as strong as our connection is with each other, we wouldn't even go there.
Yeah.
You know, in saying certain things, because we just know, you know, we are triggery. We are a work in progress. We are, you know, there are fears there and anxieties and stresses. And so healthy communication means, because where we really get in trouble is when we're both anxious or stressed at the same time.
Yeah.
As long as one of us is in a good space,
It might go well.
one of us is there to clip the yellow, you know, one of us is there to kind of be like, I'm just going to remove myself from this conversation. But if we're both stressed, that's when we can get in trouble. So we've got to really avoid these unhealthy language tools. And the first whole category that we're looking at is what we've called fears and judgments pretending to be intelligent. I'll give you a little sneak peek. Episode 2 is, where's my mouse here? Oh yeah, here we go. Episode 2 is fears and judgments pretending to be vulnerable. That's probably my favorite one because that's the one that I've struggled with the most. Sounds like, you know, it sounds like it's vulnerable, but in actual fact, it's just fear and judgments. And then the third episode is fears and judgments pretending to be noble and strong. And then the last one is just straight up fears and judgments in self-defense. And so you'll probably identify yourself more in one of those categories than others. Which one would you see yourself more in out of those?
Probably all of them at some point.
Yeah, me too. I think this first one is probably more me. It, you know, pretending to be intelligent, because usually that's my struggle. If I'm really honest, in a moment where it's heated, I'm afraid, I'm feeling hurt, but what I'm thinking is like I'm the one who really knows what's going on.
Yeah, I've got a way into this conversation with the words, maybe to
Yeah, and so it's like I try to argue my way through something, through the facts, and oh no, you know, da. Okay, so the first one, fears and judgments pretending to be intelligent. So we've identified this as probably something. With each of these, we've got 9 of them in this episode. With each of them, we've identified, is this something that's Cora would be more likely to say, or Matt would be more likely to say? This first one is what you don't understand. Oh, I forgot. We need to quickly identify the 4 points in the powerful communication module that we center around. Number 1, I prepare myself well before important conversations. So all these are so simple, but, you know, really hard. It's not complicated, but it's really hard. Number 2 is I pursue understanding first and agreement second. So usually we would just want agreement. We just want you, I want you to agree with where I'm at. But we got to pursue understanding first and then agreement. Number 3 is I tell you about me and you tell me about you. And that's a big one that we're going to be coming back to over and over and over, particularly in this episode, because a lot of the unhealthy language tools that we're looking at are me telling you about you. I'm afraid, I'm scared, I'm hurt, so I'm going to tell you about you. Right? Because that's a lot easier than telling you about me.
That's right.
And number 4 is I participate in establishing a clear way forward. I don't just leave it vague and weird. I'm part of making sure we got a way forward.
So you told us these 4 points as to understand where communication module fit in the course. Is that okay?
And because they're principles, it's like, okay, why is that unhealthy? What you don't understand is, so this I'm reflecting back on the principle that highlights why that's unhelpful. So the first one is what you don't understand, right? So let's paint the picture. Let's set the scene.
Yeah.
We're having a conversation about something that's stressful in life, what do you think is probably going, if you're sitting there thinking to yourself, my gosh, what are you feeling?
Yeah, probably just, I'm feeling misunderstood,
right?
Obviously.
Yeah.
But instead of stepping out of the conversation for a second to kind of realize that that's what I'm feeling, I'm probably wanting to highlight how stupid you are. Is there any better word?
What? How? But you love me.
I do love you.
How could you think
so
that?
Much. Because
Isn't that amazing?
Because it's much better to feel like you're stupid than to expose that I feel hurt.
So good.
It's just much better. It's a great tool.
Yes.
It's like, dig.
Yeah, exactly. Why would I open my heart to you when I can stab you in the face?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. So
it's important to realize that, you titled it Fears and Judgment Pretending to be Intelligent. It's important to understand no one sets out to pretend anything.
Yes.
I'm not thinking I'm pretending.
Yes. Good.
My
really good.
fear is pretending, but I'm not aware.
Yeah.
I'm just using fear as the tool, and it pretends to be vulnerable, but it's not.
Yeah.
And so really, to be intelligent, sorry. So yeah, I think for me, I'm not aware I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I'm protecting myself.
Yeah.
This is my way of like, you're about to hurt me.
Yes.
So how about I hurt you first?
Yeah.
Like I'm just gonna, like you're not getting it. What's wrong with you? Yeah, that's probably the overall emotion.
Yeah.
What is wrong with you? You don't get this.
Definitely.
Good. How
Okay.
dare you not get this? Why do I have to explain it?
Yeah.
Like.
Because the last thing, if you're already feeling misunderstood, and we'll come back to this over and over, if you're already feeling hurt, you're already feeling misunderstood, the most unnatural thing in the world is to make yourself more vulnerable. You want to go into self-defense.
Yeah.
Right? So what you don't understand is that Now imagine that. What is that going to produce? We always use this phrase that offense produces defense, right? So it is an offensive thing to say, you don't understand. Like, I'm sorry, but that in any circumstance, telling someone, again, it's my job to tell you about me.
Yeah.
Your job to tell me about you. It's not my job to tell you what you understand. It doesn't matter if I'm right.
I think it's very difficult for people who sense they have a very high intuitive gift.
Yes.
So
talk about that.
Obviously, this is where so much, my younger self, much more immature. Hopefully, I'm a little bit more mature now. I don't know. I think so.
You're certainly a whole lot cuter and more
That's
mature
all that matters,
as well. I think double threat. More mature, way even hotter. Awesome.
Well, for me, when I was younger, I relied on that spidey sense for everything because that's what got me a lot of good results.
That
intuition. And in my 20s, I realized, I think that Brene Brown talks about her intuition was like her superpower. Some people,
the ability to know what's going on inside of someone else.
We're born with some very empathetic or compassionate, where we sense people's emotion. There's no other ways to say it. I just sense. So I just thought I knew. There's no way I don't know. I know that this is something I'm good at. That's why I don't think I'm pretending. I just think I know.
Man, that's got to be so hard.
It is hard.
I don't struggle with this because I'm not that intuitive.
Yeah.
So I don't actually think I know what's happening inside of somebody else.
Yeah.
Right? But for you, and people talk about this all the time, like, oh, I know. I know what that person is thinking.
Yeah.
I know. And you got to stop and think about for a minute, like, okay, that's cool. You've got that intuitive gift. How does that intersect with a foundation of respect?
Yeah.
Because what is that? You basically are saying, I'm going to tell you what you understand. I'm going to tell you what you're feeling. Can we see how?
And I think
how disrespectful that actually can be.
Yeah, and I think that the deepest thing I started to understand is that no matter how much of an intuitive gift no matter how good my gift is as somebody who's quite empathetic or quite aware of what's going on in a room, no matter how good that is, I don't even know my own heart that well. I think I started to realize, I think I know my heart, but there's so many things I do and say that's based on fear that I didn't even know were there. Sometimes I start being aware of my fears while I talk to you. And so I think I learned over the years, hopefully, better and better, that I must care for your heart like I care for mine, in the sense that I don't know what is going on in there, but I'm going to cause you to wonder what's going on in there by being respectful and kind of asking questions rather than establishing that I know what's in there. And stop trying to pretend to be intelligent and go, I don't feel understood. I'm scared. Now, can you help me understand what you're seeing here so that I can understand you better? Because right now I don't feel understood. And try to go there best we can.
Straight up, in all honesty, this is probably the area in our relationship where I am most grateful for the changes that you've made and have felt most loved by your willing to actually do that. And I think if you're an intuitive person, or even somebody who's not particularly intuitive like me, I don't think you can turn off having an opinion as to what's going on inside of somebody.
You don't have to.
And that's fine. You don't have to be like boom, 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 you know, like I have no idea. It's about how you hold that opinion.
Yeah.
Right? It's about holding. That's what I think is happening inside of you.
Yeah.
And I do. That's what right?
Yeah.
But I'm going to hold that, and I'm going to give space for respect, that it's your place to tell me. And the funny thing is that actually, I think if we're really honest with ourselves, the real need of my heart is that that person would actually be the one to communicate to me what they are going through. So many of us have been trapped in relational cycles where you take full responsibility for always knowing what's going on inside of the other person, and the other person partners with you in that and goes, yeah, I don't know what's going on. You tell me what's going on inside of me. And it might seem like, oh yeah, I'm the intuitive one, and it might be a little bit cute, but that will only last so long, because eventually the intuitive person needs to know that the other person cares enough about the connection that they will actually do the mahi, do the work, finding out what's really going on in there, and being brave enough to actually communicate.
Yeah, I think, I started to hope to use that superpower in a way where I tap into what I'm feeling best I can and cause you to wonder what you're feeling. Cause you best I can to wonder what's going on with you, but in a way where you get to decide, not in a way where I get to be the judge that says what's going on inside of you. And there is such thing as sound judgment. Nobody would let a 3-year-old cross the street on their own. They will hold their hands and say, you're not doing this. I've decided for you that I'm holding your hands. But we really got to realize that we're talking about matters of the heart. Sound judgment in the matters of the heart just has to do with your own heart. What are you going to do that's wise for you? Because you'll never know 100% what's wise for someone else, because you're not that someone else. You will never know, and so you want to avoid at all costs trying to remind them that they're an idiot, or trying to tell them over and over that that you know better, because they're not a 3-year-old that you need to hold the hand of. And no matter how they've failed you, or no matter what's gone on in their life, they're worthy of respect, like you're worthy of respect. And
it's so good.
It's hard. Because you want to treat them like a 3-year-old sometimes. I do want to treat you like a 3-year-old sometimes.
Yeah. And then we get and then you say something like that's offensive, right? It's dishonoring. It's, I'm going to tell you what you do or don't understand. And we get so shocked that produces defense.
And that, solves nothing.
Right, exactly. So, okay, so what are some better, we've identified here some better phrases. When you're feeling, when what you're feeling is misunderstood or not understood, right? I'm not feeling understood, right? Yeah. This is a statement about me, babe. Yeah. John, Frank, whatever, colleague at work, your 16-year-old son, I don't know, insert person here who you don't feel understood by. I am not feeling understood. I need to feel understood. In order to feel understood, I need whatever. Maybe I need,
I need eye contact.
Yeah.
There's so many things that we feel we need. You don't get to tell them that they need to, because that's not going to be helpful. I talk, like I was just saying to Matt, sometimes I talk like that again to my 3-year-old. What you need to is to clean your room. Well, I don't, she doesn't appreciate that. She's like, I don't need to clean my room.
Right? And you're emphasizing, I know better. I have all the power, and so you have none. I
try to be careful, though that kind of rolls off the tongue with the kids, but I try to be careful with that when they're really young. But we make it right when we do. Yes. But what I need is to feel, cared for, and it will help me if you're looking at me. Yeah. If you stop what you're doing, or if you don't roll your eyes, or whatever else might have been happening that makes me feel misunderstood or judged or whatever else, But or can you feedback what you heard? That will make me feel understood. Because what you fed back before, it didn't sound like what I said. So I felt misunderstood. I actually had to do that with an official, like a government official on the phone a few days ago. Somebody I'm not that close to, but I had to actually use that tool in a very legal context. Even it has to do with some stuff that's going on that I'm responsible for. All is well, don't worry. But it was one of those things. I was like, wow, it worked. You know, he kind of stopped his aggressivity. He slowed down, and I was like, you're gonna need to feedback. You're gonna need to hear what I just said, because I don't think you.
You need him to feedback.
Yeah, exactly. Here you go. See how well that rolls off the tongue. So I was just saying, do you mind feeding back? Because I don't actually feel that you fed back what I actually said, and then he fed back, and I was like, I need to rework that. And so that's a good one. I need to feel understood. Can you feedback, or can you change that body language that makes me feel...
Yeah, body language is a big one. Shiloh busted this out on me probably about 9 months ago.
Yeah.
She was sad, and Dad, I don't feel understood. Right? And I said, oh, okay. Thanks for telling me what you need. You know, like, thanks for telling me what you're feeling.
Yeah.
What do you need? How can I... And she said, I need you to look at me. I want you to hear me, and I want you to look at me. I need you to, you know, she wants not just my ears, because I'm busy, I'm doing something over here and I'm listening.
Yeah.
But and that's just the way she is.
Yeah.
It's just the way she is. I don't need someone's eyes and ears. Just their ears is plenty for me. But, oh my goodness, me and Shiloh are not the same person.
Yeah.
We have different needs. I have a choice.
Yeah.
I either say, I don't care about you feeling understood, leave me alone.
Yeah.
Or I say, I want you to feel understood. What do you need from me? And then they're answering the question.
That's right.
So
Then
they're giving me
it's a
information.
dialogue, yeah.
They're not controlling me. They're not manipulating me, but only because of that step.
Yeah, that's right.
Where I actually say, what do you need?
Yeah.
I want to know what you need, right? My heart is open. So I'm hearing you.
Yeah.
You don't want to go around telling people what you need if they're not asking.
Yeah, that's what I mean is, you know, try to avoid that sense of like, well, what I need now is this. It's not going to work.
Yeah, definitely.
Often it doesn't work.
So we've got, I don't have confidence that you're aware of what's going on. These are, I'm totally picturing moments where there's a huge difference for Cora, you know, between, okay, she thinks because I'm optimistic, right? I'm like, I think we can do everything. Everything's always going to be fine. And what she wants to say is, what she's thinking is, you're a total idiot. There's way more, you would never think that, but like, you don't see what's going on here. You don't understand the big picture. But she slows herself down and she says, I don't feel confidence that you're aware of, I don't have confidence that you're aware of what's going on, or I'm feeling afraid of what I see coming ahead, and I feel alone. I'm not sure that you're seeing what I'm seeing. Totally different. Yeah. That's not an attack on me. That's not, hey, Dad, we're recording a podcast. Sorry, I didn't warn you earlier.
Hi, everybody.
Is that okay? Do you mind chilling in the living room for a bit?
If you need to lay down, you can use that room, Dad.
That's Dad. Forgot to tell him this morning that we'd be using the office. Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. So so there's nothing offensive about that. She's drawing me into her heart. This is a message about her, and I then have the opportunity to go, oh, maybe you're right. Maybe I don't see what's going on. Help me understand what you need, from me. And then I've also got here a way of responding. If somebody says to me, what you don't understand is, here's a little healthy way I've identified for responding to a disrespectful message with respect. And it's this. I'd really like to hear you out on this. I'm not comfortable with being told what I just did this, last week actually in a meeting. I'm not comfortable with being told what I do or don't understand. But if there's anything you need me to understand, then I'd really love to hear about it, right? So that door is closed. Yeah. The door of you tell me what I need to understand, right? You tell me what a moron I am, that door is closed. But this other door where you tell me what you need, that one's open. Okay, shall we move on to the next one? Cool. Okay, you're doing that or saying that because you... Right, so it's the same deny. Oh, well, you're only doing that because you or you're doing that because you want attention. Yeah. You're doing that because you're afraid of what your mom thinks. Or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you why you're doing something.
Yeah.
Right? Which we identified as probably, again, it's that intuition thing.
Yeah, it's that intuition. It's like, I know 5 steps you've missed. So let me, let me just enlighten you on these 5 steps that, you need in order to be able to understand the full situation. It's, well, this and this and this. So because you didn't have this, or because this happened, you don't understand. Again, it comes from a perspective that I have the entire understanding of the situation.
Yeah.
That has to do with you and your heart. And no matter how much of a jerk you might be, every once in a while, that might happen. You act like a jerk. Okay, that can happen.
Never.
Which, believe me, I do that too. No matter what you do, it doesn't define you. And I've got to just pull back and go, I don't know the full story.
Yeah.
That's why I love.
And here's the thing that, go ahead.
I was going to say, I love Brené Brown and her talk about
We
stories.
do,
the
don't we?
stories
The
that
story
we
in your
have in
head.
our heads.
Again, here's the thing I really want to encourage you with, because you might be thinking to yourself, but what if I'm right? What if I'm right? And here's the thing, friend. You probably are.
Most probably are.
But that doesn't make it okay.
Yeah.
Just because you are right about what's going on inside of another person and what they're motivated by, assuming that is still actually an offensive and disrespectful thing to do.
Yeah.
Right? So Paul, in the New Testament of the Bible, one of the letter writers, he talks about part of love is assuming the highest of someone. And so you think, well, which one is it? Do I just go, oh, it doesn't matter, and assume the highest? Or do I say it does matter and I know what's happening inside of you? And I'm saying neither of those two extremes.
Yeah.
And both of them at the same time, which actually sounds like this. I don't know what's going on inside of you, but you are impacting me.
Yeah.
Whatever what you're doing is affecting me. I'm going to be innocent of an opinion as to what's motivating you. In fact, I'm going to actually have an opinion, but it's going to be a high opinion. I'm going to extend trust that the motive in your heart is good, right? Because that's what love requires. I'm also going to be completely honest and real about how your actions are affecting me. And you can do both of those at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Yeah, and so even for that, instead of going with these stupid lines, you can go, can you help me understand why you're doing or saying
Which has got to be hard when it's like, I know exactly why you're doing that, but you're just going to slow down.
What's your story? This is my story. Sometimes we do say it, like, I'm so mad right now because I have this story in my head that this is why you're doing this. And then I get to give you an opportunity. I say, but can you please let me understand? What's your story?
I will say what I think you're doing. I think why you're doing that is that, and you'll look at me wide-eyed and you'll say, would you like to hear why I'm doing that? Would you like to know? And I'll say, yes, I would really like to know.
Yeah, and then usually, even if the story you give me, my story is louder or rings more true, I get to go, okay, that's your story.
Yeah.
I find it hard to believe, but that is your story, and I'm going to honor and respect that.
Sometimes,
and have good boundaries if I feel that story doesn't align with what I feel comfortable with, because that means the issue is going to repeat itself, that I might need to have some good boundaries for another podcast.
Yeah. And sometimes, I'm sure we could both admit, sometimes in the end it proves I was dead wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we often have this phrase, I think I know, but I don't.
Yeah.
Because so often, actually, the story in my head was not true at all. There were facts that were missing, and it's like, wow, I'm really glad I didn't act on that judgment, because I was dead wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, let's motor through. We got a few more here. You're not making any sense, darling. This is something that, again, it's this fear and judgments pretending to be intelligent. Oh, let me just inform you, you're not making any sense, right? And Cora goes, oh my gosh, thank you so much.
I was waiting for somebody to tell me how much
I've been wondering,
irrational.
Yeah, that's right. I've been wondering what the problem is here. And it turns out the problem all along was that I don't make any sense. Oh my gosh, I wish you'd told me earlier. No way, that never produces that. You're not making any sense, right? You could throw that out. You could write that down on a piece of paper, throw it out, never say that again. It never helped you, and it never will. All right. What's a better tool? What I'm hearing you say is feedback. Da 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 da. Is that right? Right. So you're saying I'm not. Again, it's this thing of I'm not going to go. You're not making any sense. I'm going to go with a different tool, which is I am not understanding you. This is not making sense to me.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm going to lean in and I'm going to say, can you help me understand?
So your words are this, but your actions were there. So it doesn't line up for me. It's really hard to understand. Please fill me in.
Yes.
Is really what it's asking.
Yeah. And you know what? You might not arrive.
Yeah.
I might explain it 100 times and you still might go, still doesn't add up. It still doesn't add up.
But I don't get to decide that you're wrong and
Yeah,
I'm right. I
exactly.
get to go, well, I'm going to honor your story. I'm going to honor what you've filled in. And I'm going to, again, be really healthy in the way that I relate to you. Or sometimes it might actually, as you said, just enlighten me in something I didn't know or didn't see that way. A new element about your heart as to why you did something that I did not anticipate, which is rare for me because I'm like, I think I've figured that out pretty well.
Yeah.
I didn't anticipate you feeling this way. That element that you filled in actually is really helpful.
Yeah.
So that one or the other can
Yeah.
happen.
Because even we're 18 years into this marriage and we are still unpacking the baggage that we have brought into this marriage, positive and negative. When I say baggage, that has a negative connotation. Some of those bags are filled with treasure. Some of them are not. We're still unpacking everything we brought from our family experiences.
Yeah.
And so we're not relating to each other through vacuum.
Yeah.
We're relating to and even sometimes we're relating to each other through the pain of something that happened last week with somebody else, right? So we're mindful of those things.
Yeah.
There's more going on
Yeah.
than what we think, what we realize. Okay. Next one is, okay, let me just stop you right there because that's just flat out wrong. That never helped you. That phrase, let me just stop you right there because that's just wrong. No one ever went, oh, wow, thank you so much. Whew, I was like racing towards a cliff of wrongness and you rescued me before I fell off the cliff of wrongness. That never helped you, right? Again, we're going to go, what's better than that? Instead of saying you're just wrong, right? We're saying, what I'm hearing you say is that right? I have a different perspective on what's happening here, right? I'm backing up and I'm going to talk about me. I'm not going to tell you whether you're right or you're wrong. Soon, again, it's that thing of pursuing understanding first, right? Right, wrong, that's about agreement. Trying to get to the bottom of you're wrong, you're right, I'm wrong, I'm right, whatever. But if we slow that down first and pursue agreement, pursue understanding first, that's when we can actually have an honoring conversation.
And sometimes there's circumstances where you go, hold on, the facts that you're telling me don't seem to align with my experience of the same fact. I'm really worried we're on the wrong foundation for this conversation. And that can be one of the ways that, because often when you think the other person's wrong is that didn't happen. That wasn't like this.
They defend themselves.
Yes.
Offense produces defense.
Yeah. And so maybe pausing and going, hold on, I'm a bit concerned about this version of the fact that you're bringing up. I don't see it that way. It didn't happen like this in my experience. Can we just talk about that a little bit more and then go back into the conversation in a way? That's why in a way it's to be really respectful when you think you're right about a fact or,
And so here's something I've identified as a way of in a healthy way responding to somebody. If somebody tells me, okay, let me just stop you right there because you're just wrong, right? I'm going to say, I'm thinking this is the part of the conversation where I'm talking and you're listening. Is that what you're thinking? Yes? Would you mind letting me finish my thought and then feeding back to me what you're hearing from me so that I can see that I've communicated well? And this is something that we use quite often because I'm a words person and quite often I'll say something and Cora will want to respond really quickly, right? But my heart is not ready for her response if she hasn't first given me a solid sense that she's actually really understood me. And so I will say, before you respond, can you just feedback what you're hearing from me? And then she'll feedback. And usually it's pretty much right. Sometimes I'm like, okay, let me try again because that is not at all what I'm trying to say. But most of the time I'll say, yeah, that's what I'm hearing. I feel understood. Now my heart is ready to actually hear. The defense is coming down. right? And I'm keeping myself in a creative, curious, connecty sort of a space of mind, which is really helpful. Okay, because you just flat. Okay, I think what you're trying to say is that that might sound kind of benevolent, right? That might sound like, well, this is one of those ones that people kind of go, yeah, but me and my friend, we kind of help each other figure out what we're feeling. It's like, I think what you're trying to say is da 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 da, and the other person's like, oh my gosh, you're right. That is what I'm trying to say. Okay, sure. That may not produce an atomic bomb every time, but I'm telling you, be careful. Be careful, because you're creating a pattern where you're not telling me fully what you're trying to say. I'm telling you what you're trying to say. And if you create that as a pattern and a precedent, eventually the wheels are gonna fall off, right?
So if one of you can't communicate properly what they're trying to say, it's on them to go, I gotta work on my communication. That's probably the healthy way of the other person shouldn't just try to figure them out. The other person should just pull back and say, you let me know when you've figured out what you're trying to say, because I don't want to put words into your mouth. And that puts the other person in the driver's seat of themselves, of their own communication. So.
Which is where you need them to be, actually.
Yeah.
Because that is, what I've seen happen so much is that, particularly between friends, right? One friend says to the other, if person A is in a really good space, just feeling great about life, then that's going to work. I think what you're trying to say is da 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 da, and the other person's maybe not in a good space of life, but it's going to work. Be like, yeah, actually, you're right. That is what I'm trying to say. Okay, awesome. Tick the box. What about when person A is stressed and afraid, right? Yeah. And they are not going to feel like what you're trying to say. Yeah. They're actually going to be like, what the heck?
Figure yourself out.
Figure yourself out. And person B is going to be going,
you're the one who helps me do that.
What the heck? This is how we always do it. Yeah. And so again, it's this thing of boundaries around, you got to think, is this a tool that can still work even when I'm feeling stressed and afraid, right? And if it's not, then it's not sustainable, right? Because you are going to get stressed and afraid at times if you're a human being on planet Earth. Okay, few more, but you do that all the time, right? So someone say, there's something that you've done, this morning that I want to talk to you about. Oh, okay, cool. When you left the coffee, whatever. Yeah. But you do that all the time, right? Okay, boom. We have just created an atomic bomb by saying this, right? Because we're devalidating the other person, and we're getting into an argument where that's we're bringing offense that's going to produce defense, right? So what's better? If you're willing to talk about it, someone's saying something, right? And you're willing to talk about it.
You do that all the time?
Yeah. Whoops. Yeah. Sorry, you're right. I skipped forward. Yeah. As I've just put shut up and listen. That's the alternative, the better tool. Yeah. Just shut up and listen. But you do that all the time. It's like there is no better tool in place of that than to just shut up and actually listen to what the person's saying.
Do you mean actually shutting up, not saying shut up and listen to the other person? Is that what you mean?
Yes, I'm saying this is not a phrase.
Okay, because it sounded like it for a second. I was like,
shut up and listen. No, the opposite. I'm saying if I'm tempted to use that tool, right? If I'm tempted to say,
shut up,
but you do that all the time, it's probably a moment for me to actually just shut up and listen to what's going on.
Even though you think the other person. So this might have to do with, I find the other person is a hypocrite. They want me to do this, but they're not doing it themselves. Yes. So now I need to bring it back to them. Yes. Now the problem's them. Their hypocrisy is the problem. But we're not talking about the hypocrisy. Yeah. We're talking about the fact that the other person is asking for something.
Oh, and I'm not a big thing on a big guy for all of the terms, but we call that gaslighting, right?
Yeah, trying to turn the problem about the other. You don't like that you've been caught doing something that displeases the other person. Right. and you like to turn it against the other person. I mean, it could be gaslighting. It seems a little bit light, but however, I don't know. I'm not a counselor. I'm not going to use the term gaslighting as if I knew what it is. It's just a lot of people do like to use that. Yeah. I've got a lot of people who talk to me about gaslighting, and I'm like, I don't know enough about what gaslighting is to say that it is gaslighting. However, it is trying to turn the problem to be about something else. Again, it's a defense mechanism, like you're saying. It's like, I don't like my behavior to be talked about right now, and I just can't be bothered. I don't want that. So we're going to try to turn it back to, well, you did that. So it's hypocrisy. So I think it's like, if we want to talk about hypocrisy, then we need to make it clear. Let's talk about that there could be some hypocrisy here, and I mean, you have double standard, and I don't understand it. Can we talk about that? The problem is, that's not I'm not the initiator of this conversation.
Exactly.
You are. Yeah. You came, and there's something you want to talk about. So maybe first say, am I willing to change that behavior? Whatever it is, the coffee, whatever it is, like the socks left on the ground. I don't know. You guys have your own things. We don't care about socks on the ground. That, whatever the thing is, address that. Am I willing to change that? I'm going to put my thing about what a stupid person you are. You do it all the time. I'm just going to put it on the shelf for a minute because I'm going to honor and respect that you wanted to bring that up. So we're going to close that loop.
Yeah.
Close the loop and decide, am I willing to change this behavior, whatever it's called? Yes, no, maybe I'll think about it. Or maybe I'm too mad about this thing on the side. It can't actually leave my brain and say, I need a minute. Or I need a few days to think about it. I'm too upset about this sense of hypocrisy. Deal with it. And then close the loop. And then bring up the issue of, can we talk about the fact that you did it last week? Or maybe there's another way that we've done it sometimes. It's like, I really want to talk about it. I really want to answer you, but there's something that's bothering me. And ask.
Yes. Do you mind if we pause the conversation you initiated for a minute and talk about something that I want to bring up? Yeah. And it puts it's respect, right? And the person can go, do you know what? Yeah, okay. Or they can say, nah.
Yeah.
No way.
They might not want to.
No way. I just initiated this conversation. I don't want to do that.
I think the biggest thing is some people might listen to that and go, oh my gosh, that sounds like a lot of work, but it is. Actually, honoring and respecting someone else takes some willpower, a serious amount of energy inside to go, I really respect you. Even though I think you're so stupid in what you're doing right now, I am going to up my level of respect more than my level of judgment. That is hard.
Yeah,
that is just
it's
hard.
And I'll tell you, anybody who listens to any of this and says, wow, that's too much work, if you think that this is more work and time and energy than having stupid conversations, you're dead wrong.
Yeah.
This is hard work, but man, it is so much less work than constantly having terrible conversations.
So I have these amazing, this tool called Marco Polo that I use for people who are on the mentoring program and they get to express themselves. I ask them to keep it to 15 minutes to kind of express what they're experiencing so I can validate and help and support them. So much of these 15 minutes videos are about stupid conversations over and over again. Think about the amount of time, energy that takes to kind of rehash having the bad conversation, rehashing
the conversation to 3 other friends after the conversation,
and trying to then actually fix the problem. I tell you, I would much rather work on the respect part because it will give you a much faster result and a better connection with a person, even if they act like an idiot once in a while. It doesn't matter.
It's like the difference between jumping on the rugby field completely unfit, which is like, that doesn't seem like much work. Oh man, it's going to be work on the rugby field.
That's right.
You're going to get obliterated as opposed to working out in the gym. Not that I'm not a rugby player. I wouldn't have a clue. But it looks like you have to go to the gym a lot to be a good rugby player, as far as I can tell. Okay, so we've got a few more here. Let's motor through. Another one. Oh, my little response to that. Somebody says to you, but you do that all the time. Here's my response. As I've initiated this conversation, would you mind if we, would you mind if we just focus on how your actions are impacting me? Once we resolve that, I'd love to connect about anything that I've done that's impacted you negatively. Like, I initiated this conversation. Cora's done this with me so many times. Like, I'm thinking I started this conversation. Are we on the same page about that? Do you mind if we just resolve what I brought up first before? And I'm like, yes. Oh, yep. And I've got to have the self-control to just park this very valid thing that I'm feeling but I didn't start the conversation, so I've got to park that for a bit.
We do that to each other, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, another one. You don't know what you're talking about, right? Same thing. Okay, what's better? What are better tools? If you're willing to talk about it, right? Then again, I'd say shut up and listen.
Yeah.
That's a better tool. Just, zip the lip and just listen. Or if it's something that you're not willing to talk about, then you might say something like, I don't have enough confidence in your perspective on this matter for me to be willing to hear you out on this.
And that's a painful one to hear.
Ooh, that's tough.
But, Danny Silk, he's one of our mentors, and he says, you don't get trust unless you can truth each other. And that's a truthing moment.
Yeah.
It's hard to hear that.
I've done that with you a couple times. I've done that with you a couple times, and I'm just like, you know what, darling? On this, I'm not actually interested in what you think about this.
Yes.
And I can let you know exactly why.
Yeah.
And
what would be
Cora's
painful is if he didn't explain
ouch.
it. Yeah. Usually we have good reasons why, and we can really let each other in why we don't have confidence that other person has the full truth on the matter. But we've got to be able to take that from each other. If we can't, our love is very fragile.
And again, it's this thing of if you regardless of whether or not you have any confidence in my perspective on this, you owe me all of your time. And we go, no, I actually don't. My time is my gift to give, and I will give it to whom I choose to, right? And so sometimes these are codependence busting tools here.
It's really hard, but it's good.
But it's really good. Okay, another one is...
I just want to say on the last one, just be careful not to do that in a shameful way. Just because you don't have enough confidence in someone else's perspective does not mean they're an idiot. Just means right now that you have some element that they don't, that you trust more, that whatever it is. But it is important to not shame each other, not to...
And to graciously let the person... You don't want to leave them in the dark.
No, you let them in why. And
you don't, I don't have confidence that you know what you're talking about. Peace. It's like, hey, but I can... That's why I'm emphasize. I'm happy to let you know, and I'm going to guide you if you want to earn my trust. If you want me to be confident about this, I'm going to make sure you know exactly what you can do to build that confidence in me. You don't have to. I don't have to have confidence, and you don't have to earn my confidence. It's a gift.
Yeah.
It's a gift. It's a gift exchange.
Yeah.
Okay. You don't know what you're talking about. Is that the one I just said? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. You don't see what's really going on here. Right. Again, we've probably very similar. What are some better language tools for that? Is again, if you're willing to talk about it, just shut up and listen. If you're not willing to talk about,
I think you've just done that.
Well, no, that's the same tool. That's the same tool actually.
Because it's very similar.
It's very similar.
Yeah.
Okay, but I wanted to identify. Might be something that you reach for often. You don't see what's really going on here, or how about you're not being honest with me? You're not being honest with me.
Yeah.
That's a big one that a lot of people use. Toss it, friend. Toss it.
Yeah.
It doesn't help. You might be right, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't help.
It's a relationship killer.
It really is. What do you think the other person is going to do with that information? You're not being honest with me. And they go, oh my gosh. Wow. Turns out this whole time, I think I know. It turns out I thought I was a rational human being. Turns out I'm crazy. Or it turns out I'm a lying, deceptive freak. It's like, no way. Offense produces defense. They're going to immediately start defending themselves because it's an offensive thing to say, right?
Yeah.
So here's a better tool. I'm concerned, and this actually happened between us. Yeah. There was a moment last week where I was saying I'm a little bit concerned that not that I think you're being deceptive. I was
that you're not honest with yourself. You don't even know what you're really feeling.
I was concerned that you might be out of touch with what you're really feeling. Isn't that amazing to think that I would say that?
Yeah, we've gone a long way if Matt's gone that emotionally intuitive with me. Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm concerned you might not be telling me the whole truth. It's important to me that you're 100% honest with me about this. Is there anything I can do to help you feel safe to be absolutely honest?
Another one that you could use in that context, and I've used that with people who are more quiet. People who are quiet and who don't share a whole lot, you're going to start thinking they're not being honest with you. They're withholding information. Yeah. It's easy to go there. And so with people who are really quiet, I've said, things like, these are people I'm close to, obviously, not just like any random people
Well, that's what
who
we're
are
talking
shy.
about. We're talking about the closest people in your life.
Just wanting to just reiterate that.
Yeah.
But I've said things like, I'm actually feeling a little bit in the dark when you're that quiet.
Yes.
Do you mind volunteering more information so I can feel closer to you?
Yeah.
So that's another way that to really emphasize my goal is to be closer to you, my goal to understand you. But with this much silence, I'm filling in the blank and making up stories, and I don't want that to be the case. And that's another way of inviting honesty without saying you're being dishonest. But it's like, oh, you know, I don't know what's happening, and bringing that in. So, because it's really easy to make up stories with people who are more quiet in personalities. And I have a lot of people who contact me, and we go on the journey of mentoring, and their spouses or their husbands, they're more quiet. And they're finding that very difficult. They're like, I just don't think he's honest with me because I just don't hear enough. And so that could be a good tool. I just feel in the dark. Let me in. I'd love to feel pulled in.
And again, you've got to have
is there anything I could do to make it safer so you feel comfortable doing that?
And I've got to have a plan, because you can't make someone be honest with you.
No.
You've got to have a plan.
Yeah.
They might not want, they might never, you might do everything under the sun to create a safe place, and it's still their choice as to whether or not they're going to be known.
Yeah.
Right? Each of us has to wrestle with that question. How much do I want to be known? You can't make it happen. And if you extract it from them, it's not going to meet the need that you needed it to meet in the first place, because of the way you had to extract it from them. Because what you really need is for them to care enough about the connection to actually volunteer that information. So you actually shoot yourself in the foot by trying to extract it from them. You make it impossible for them to ever actually meet the need of your heart. But there's a whole nother side of this, and that is, what about issues of betrayal? Yeah. And like, I think you're hiding something from me, and you know, we just come from the perspective that the truth comes out, and we've just decided. Well, I've certainly decided. With my kids in my close relationships, I'm not going to be a detective. I'm just gonna. I would rather. I like to go seeking information and to again to try to extract it out. Can be so detrimental. And I just kind of go, I've just watched this happen 1,000 times over the course of my life. The truth comes to the surface.
It always does.
It just does. And so my goal is to create as safe a place as possible for people to be honest with me. Yeah. And I would rather, and that happens sometimes. It's like, wow, that was happening for 2 years.
There's been some interesting
and it's like, whoa, okay.
developments sometimes.
It's like, okay.
I was lied to for this long.
It's like, okay, well, now we're going to work it through. Yeah. But I don't want exchanges of truth that I have to extract out of people. Not in my closest relationships.
Again, unless there's danger.
Yeah, totally.
You go to the legal authorities.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Yeah, if you've got issues where your children are involved and there's a spouse,
if there's danger, you've got to do everything you can.
Totally, but that's where it gets to that level. We're talking about how you foster deeper trust with the most important people in your life. And the last one is, sure, I understand how you're feeling. That's exactly how you made me feel last week, right? Which is this thing of hypocrisy.
Yeah, it's turning the problem back to the other person.
Yeah.
I'm sure you don't mean to, but when you do that, you're saying, I don't want to deal with what you're talking about. I want to turn it back to you. Exactly.
And remember, these are fears and judgments pretending to be intelligent. Yeah. Remember, I used to do this in the early years of our marriage. I would think to myself, what's really going on inside of me is, I can't believe you have the audacity to confront me about this thing that you do all the time. You have got to be kidding me. You have got some nerve. That's what's going on inside of me. But I don't say that because that's scary. So I say, oh yeah, I do understand. Yes, of course, I totally understand how I did that and made you feel. The reason I understand is because that's exactly what you did last week. And I'm thinking you're going to go, oh, okay, yeah, like that, Or you're going to go, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I can't believe I did that last week. But it is so hurtful and so offensive when I used to do that. Yeah. Hopefully, I think it's been a long time.
And often the thing you think is hypocrisy is there's a slightly different angle. There's a slightly different things about it that the other person feels differently about. It's an unending conversation when you start going down there. It's like, yeah, but it was like this and that. And it's like, at the end of the day, can we just finish the first conversation? And then if you have an issue with how I'm bringing up or what I'm bringing up, can we talk about that next? It's the same concept.
Yeah.
Just honor one another. No matter how much you think, what the heck, you just have to honor. Yeah.
Exactly. If you want it to go well, you can't, if you bring disrespect into the conversation, disrespect is only ever going to bring chaos and disconnection, friend. Like never. It's like there is no recipe on the planet that if you add rotten, curdled, disgusting milk to, it's like, but in this case it's okay. No, it's never ever going to produce anything good.
Yeah. It's like a bad stain that's very difficult to get rid of.
Yeah.
It's like that's it. It's there now. It's happened, and so you're gonna need to rebuild now. You're gonna need to work on it. So don't do it.
Yeah, don't do it.
Yeah,
just say no.
We sometimes do it and say sorry.
Yeah,
but we rebuild from
exactly.
it much more powerfully
when you
now.
When you do it, don't do it. But when you do,
because you will
own it. Because you will own it and apologize.
Yeah, and that's the big. One. I can't remember. We were talking about something one day, and I was saying, the reason why I love talking about relationship and I work on it so hard is because I've failed at it so many times, so miserably. And it's true. Sometimes we feel, for me, that's what gives me authority to talk about it. This is how many times I failed and how many times I went back on the horse and said, I'm gonna say sorry. I'm gonna do this right, because I didn't have very good relational tools that I was handed when I was younger, and now I do. So I've practiced and practiced. So don't be afraid of doing it wrong. Don't listen to the podcast and think I could never do this. It's like, no, we do it wrong, Matthew and I, and we just fail at it, and then we make it right, and we keep going. Don't give up.
No, don't give up. On that, okay, that's the end of this episode. We will see you again in the next one, which is, we're still sticking with how do I dismantle an atomic bomb-versation, and we're going to fears and judgments, pretending to be vulnerable. Ooh, this next one's going to be spicy. All right, see you, friends.
Bye.
We hope you found the conversation and stories on today's podcast helpful and insightful. If you want to go deeper, Restoring Connections offers online courses that cover key topics like personal responsibility, proactive care, powerful communication, and healthy boundaries. Go to www.restoringconnections.nz for more information. This podcast is funded by generous supporters from all over the world. Please consider supporting by going to the Restoring Connections website and hitting the Contribute button. By partnering with us, you're helping to provide mentoring, workshops, and training to others who are also restoring their connections.